हेलो स्टूडेंट्स, एक बार और प्राइड एंड प्रेजुडिस डिस्कस करते हैं। तो इधर मैं इस स्लाइड शो में पहले जेन ऑस्टिन के बारे में बताऊंगी। उनकी बायोग्राफी हम साथ साथ पढ़ेंगे और डिस्कस करेंगे। तो चलिए देखते हैं जेन ऑस्टिन की पर्सनल लाइफ क्या थी और उन्होंने क्या क्या वर्क किए। क्योंकि एग्ज़ाम में यू जस्ट हैव टू टेक केयर when you write any question, so please don't start directly with the jump direct into your question answer. It is better to tell something about the author and his or her works, right? So in a very brief we are going to discuss here what's the profile or biography of the author Jane Austen, right? Jane Austen was born in Steventon, Hampshire on December 16, 1775, and grew up in a very tight-knit family. Tight-knit family is very amicable, friendly family, means per family members who take care of one another. That is called tight-knit family. She was the seventh of eight children. So her number was seventh one. She was the seventh one out of eight children with six brothers and one sister. Her parents, George Austen and Cassandra Leigh, were married in 1764. And surprise is that she was born in 16 December 1775. Comes from tight knit family. Eight children were there, six brothers, two sisters, Jane Austen and Cassandra Austen. Mother's name is Cassandra and daughter name is also Cassandra Austen. Mother earlier she was Leigh, but after marriage she became Austen, Cassandra Austen. Okay. Now, Jane Austen was an English novelist whose books set among the English middle and upper classes. So that's a we find that it's all social novels, and we find that's a middle and upper class in her work or in her novels are notable for their wit, social observation, and insights into the lives of early 19th century women. So that's feminism we find, feminine idea we find, and then novels are very much witty. So this is we find in her novel social observation. She was very good observer, and it reflects in her work and insights also from 19th century women, right? So that is very important. When you read it, and you can chalk down some points, and this way you remember. And next very slide, just now after this I am going to make another brief video, right? So let us move next. Jane Austen was born on 16 December 1775 in the village of Steventon in Hampshire. She was one of eight children of a clergyman and grew up in a close knit family or tight knit family who take care of each other, family members. And she began to write as a teenager. In 1801, the family moved to Bath. After the death of Jane's father in 1805, Jane, her sister Cassandra, I told you sister and mother's name are same, and their mother moved several times, eventually settling in Chowton near Steventon. So can you imagine that Jane Austen had faced a lot of uh, difficult situation in her life, and that's a family financial crunch and other things were there, and that's why after death of her father they had to do lot of struggle, right? So that was very surprise, but it's still she had written beautiful novels, right? World famous novels. Okay, then Jane's brother Henry helped her negotiate with a publisher, and her first novel, Sense and Sensibility. Please take care that her first novel is Sense and Sensibility, appeared in 1811, right? But brother had to talk to publisher and with uh, when he helped, and then this book was published, came into the market. Her next novel, Pride and Prejudice, so that will be the second novel, Pride and Prejudice, which she described as her own darling child, right? So that's a, she was unmarried, but she used to tell that second one was her darling child, right, loving child. And her received highly favorable reviews. And then when Pride and Prejudice published, so that's that highly appreciated, that was highly appreciated by people. Then third one is Mansfield Park, was published in 1814. So you just imagine that one after the another every year, or around, about every year, her novels were published. So 1814, Mansfield Park was published. Then Emma in 1816. Emma was dedicated to the Prince Regent and admirer of her work. So that's why she had, Emma was dedicated to her Prince. She dedicated to Prince, and then all of Jane Austen's novels were published anonymously. That is really surprise to all of us, that uh, at that time they were not free to publish their books. And that is really very much a surprise to all of us also, that she was not, she had to hide her name. That was really surprise. And then in 1816, Jane began to suffer from ill health, probably due to Edison's death. And she traveled to Windsor to receive treatment and died there on 18 July 1817. Two more novels, Persuasion and Northanger Abbey, Please Take Care, these are novels were published posthumously after her death. Posthumously means after her death. And a final novel was left incomplete, right? Okay, now Jane Austen was born in Steventon, England. Again and again, I'm repeating, in 1775. Deliberately, I have repeated some of the lines because you should remember the place and year of the author, right? Her father, George Austen, was the rector of the local parish and taught her largely at home. So it was the time tutors sometime come used to come at home, and she was largely studied at home by her father. The seventh of eight children, Austen lived with her parents for her entire life because she was unmarried. First in Steventon and then later in Bath, Southampton, and Chowton. Her father was the parish rector in Steventon, and though not wealthy, her family was well connected and well educated. Though they were not wealthy, but then they were well connected, well social and educated family, right? Both Jane and her sister Cassandra were mostly educated at home, though they spent a short period of time at Abbey School. They went to school, Abbey School, but very short time. Jane's relationship with her sister was perhaps the strongest connection which existed in her family. Her numerous letters to and from Cassandra provide the basis for much of the knowledge of Austen's scholar have gleaned about Jane, right? So that is the letters are the best source from which we come to know about the about her about her, what we can say, that her, wait a minute. Yes, about Jane Austen, right? And then and this close relationship may have provided the basis for many novels in which Austen explores the connections among sisters. What Jane Austen had very good relationship with her sister, and they were two sisters, and then what we can say that. Hmm. And then, and this close relationship may have provided the basis for the many novels in which Austen explores the connection among sisters. So that's a she had very good relation with her sister, and same we find in her novels, right? Now, neither Jane nor Cassandra ever married. They could not do married, and though they had early offers, yet the situation was not entirely uncommon for the time. Means not uncommon means common. Why? Perhaps due to the added burden of finding a suitable match with within one's social class. So that's at that time problem was social class, social order. Between 10 to 35% of people in Jane Austen's time remained single, right? So we can understand that's a what we can say tapestry of social um, society, right? Yet Jane's status was a single woman did not upset her. That is different issue, but that is just very surprise fact that 10 to 35% 35% of people were single, right, because of social status and all. So but yeah, she was able to focus her novels and writing, right? So it is written here. Now, Austen began writing stories at a very young age. She was an intelligent girl and completed her first novel in her early 20s. So it's surprise, and very famous novel, Sense and Sensibility. Written three novels, though Sense and Sensibility. Austen's first novel to be published was not released until 1811. It was not released, and all of her work was published anonymously without name. She had to publish her books, and few outside of her family were aware of her writing, and that is why they were not aware that she's a writer, because anonymously she used to write publish, right? So few outside of her family were aware, they were not aware. In the early 19th century, publishing was one of the few ways middle class women could earn money. Very surprised. In the early 19th century, publishing was one of the few ways middle class women could earn money, and Austen used her modest earnings to supplement her income. And very surprised because they were not free to write openly. Now, 2 years later, her second novel, Pride and Prejudice, 1813, remember the year when you write something about Pride and Prejudice, was published and proved to be extremely popular. It is still, this book is very much popular. Ending Austen's anonymity, and then her next novel, Mansfield Park. Please, if you remember all six novels, that will be good to you. So try to understand, try to remember novel's name, right? I'm repeating, and then year also you can repeat, you can remember, right? So that would be good for you when you highlight other works also. So it is also be good. And then so that will be very good for us, right? Now, uh, her next novel, Mansfield Park, 1814, did not sell as well, and Austen followed it in 1816. You note that every year almost books came with Emma, the last novel to be published before her early death, because she died at the very young age, and in failing health, Austen wrote her final novel, Persuasion, in under a year, and Persuasion and Northanger Abbey were published posthumously in 1818, and together earned little over 500 pounds, a small amount by today's standard, but more money than Austen herself ever saw in her lifetime. Very unfortunate, when she was alive, she could not enjoy name, fame, money, right? And after her death, both the books were very famous, and posthumously it were published and earned money, which was too much at that time, right? So that is called luck, and that is the life, right? After her death, she got name, fame, right? Anyway, the social milieu of Austen's Regency England was particularly stratified, and class divisions were rooted in family connections and wealth. Unfortunately, class division was there, right? And then uh, situation was very, what we can say, that not very good situation, right? So that's it's divided, means society was divided into different parts, different layers. Class divisions were rooted in the family connections and wealth. In her work, Austen is often critical of the assumptions and prejudices of upper class England. So that was shown in Pride and Prejudice also. She distinguishes between internal merit, goodness of the person, and external merit, rank and possessions. So that's a, still it happens, right? Rank, possessions, money, muscle, power, position, right? That's the external merit. Internal merit, goodness of person. Though she frequently satirizes snobs. Snobbish is something like, what we can say, that superiority. And she also pokes fun at the poor breeding and misbehavior of those lower on social scale, so that they are not treated well. Still it happens in our society, it is prevailing in our society. Nevertheless, Austen was in many ways a realist, and the England she depicts is one in which social mobility is limited and class consciousness is strong. Very uh, surprise for so-called well-developed country, right? Okay. Socially regimented ideas of appropriate behavior for each gender factored into Austen's work as well, and that gender factor was also there. That's why she had to write anonymously. While social advancement for young men lay in the military, church, or law, the chief method of self improvement for women was the acquisition of wealth. That was there. I'm repeating, socially regimented ideas of appropriate behavior for each gender factored into Austen's work as well. And while social advancements for young men lay in the military, church, or law, the chief method of self improvement for women was they can join military, church, law, so their status will be higher. But for female, that's a self improvement for women was acquisition of wealth, so they have to be wealthy, right? Women could not only accomplish this goal through successful marriage, which explains the ubiquity of matrimony as a goal and topic of conversation in Austen's writing. We find that they, if they get married with a well off person, so then their social status will be increased. Though young women of Austen's day had more freedom to choose their husbands than in the early 18th century, practical considerations continued to limit their uh, options. Right now, even so, often uh, critics often accuse Austen of portraying a limited world. As a clergyman's daughter, Austen would have done parish work and was certainly aware of the poor around her. However, she wrote about her own world, not theirs. So critic is critic, every text is criticized, everything. So what we will do, it will be criticized. We cannot make everyone happy, satisfied, right? And it happens with happened with Jane Austen also. However, she wrote about her own world, not theirs. This is the allegation was she was alleged for this statement, for this reason, that she could not see poor people around her, and then she had written just about her own world. So the critics she makes of class structure seem to include only the middle class and upper class. The lower classes, if they appear at all, are generally servants who seem perfectly pleased with their lot. This lack of interest in the lives of poor may be a failure on Austen's part, but it should be understood as a failure shared by almost all the English society at time. So this, see, that's the allegation is, we should accept, because we that is her point of view. But overall she was a successful author, and unfortunately died very early in 1870 at the age of 42, just 42, right? So she died. So thank you so much. Goodbye.